So what's on tap for today, folks? Well, it's another reaction video of mine, and this time we're going to be looking at a video of Senator Josh Hawley interviewing Ketanji Brown Jackson, and basically questioning her on why she continued to give so many pedophiles lenient charges. So let's get right into that video, but before we do so, I just wanted you to know that you're watching the Dr. Nasir Shaikh Show, and I'm your guest host for today. My name is Dr. Shaikh, and if you haven't already done so, we'd love you to subscribe to the channel, hit that notification button, like, share, and follow this video. So without further ado, let's get into this video right now.
Senator Cruz was asking you at the end of his time in questionings about United States versus Stewart. This is the case where Neil Stewart tried to cross state lines to rape another person's 9-year-old daughter. He had 6,700 images and videos of egregious and brutal child pornography. The government recommended 97 months. The guidelines said 97 to 121 months. You came in at 57 months. Senator Cruz asked you why. The chairman wouldn't let you answer. I thought maybe you'd like to answer now.
Thank you, Senator. No one case can stand in for a judge's entire record. I have said...
I disagree with that. One case can be a standard for a judge's entire record, especially if it's egregious, especially if it was a very terrible decision, especially with this decision that did not follow the laws and the guidelines. So respectfully, Ketanji, I completely disagree with you on that answer.
Sentenced more than 100 people in a variety of egregious circumstances. In every case, and especially cases that involve the kinds of acts that you're talking about, the kinds of evidence that I had to deal with as a judge, in every case, I am balancing the factors that Congress has determined are appropriate and required for a judge to make a determination. The data points that Senator Cruz pointed to that you may have in front of you don't account for all of the information that was before me as a judge and the authority that you all, Congress, and your prior confirmation when I was a district judge provided for me to exercise my judgment, and I treated those cases and every...
You exercised your judgment. It was poor judgment, ma'am. Basically, it was very, very poor judgment. You gave lenient sentences. You had this discretion to give higher sentences. You had the discretion to give maximum sentences. Even in some cases, the parole board, the probation boards, even they were basically saying, hey, you can give the maximum sentences here, but you decided to follow your own conscience. You decided to screw the victims and give as much benefit of the doubt as you could to the perpetrators of these heinous, evil acts of child sex pornography. That's exactly what you did. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. You were absolutely wrong, egregiously wrong.
Every case very seriously and imposed a sentence that was sufficient but not greater than necessary to promote the purposes of punishment.
Would it surprise you to learn?
See, sufficient but not greater than necessary? That's just a bunch of BS, folks. It wasn't sufficient enough. It had to be greater than necessary. The recidivism rate for these people is sky high. It's like 80, 90%. Yeah, there's some studies out there that show that there's some, studies that show that there's recidivism has decreased. But those are BS studies. These are people that just want to get their ideas out there. They want to basically say, oh, sure, look, yes, what we've done, our methodology, what we've basically been able to do either through, drug therapy or psychological intervention or by rehabilitating the mind. And we've been able to achieve some phenomenal recidivism rates in these people that perpetrate these crimes. It's basically for show, folks. It's all crap. it's dry labbed. In other words, okay, let's just put it the way it is. Those are fake studies that show that recidivism has decreased. It has not.
That Mr. Stewart's a recidivist. It was warrants issued again for his arrest just 3 years after you sentenced him.
Would it surprise me?
Yeah, would it surprise you?
You know, Senator,
Yes, it should surprise you.
there is data in the Sentencing Commission and elsewhere that indicates that there are recidivism, serious recidivism issues. And so among the various people that I've sentenced, I'm not surprised that there are people who reoffend, and it is a terrible thing that happens in our system.
Yeah, indeed it is. Let me ask you about the Hawkins case. You and I talked about this yesterday. You've been able to think about it overnight. This is a case where you had an 18-year-old who possessed and distributed hundreds of images of 8-year-olds and 9-year-olds and 10-year-olds, and you gave him, frankly, a slap on the wrist sentence of 3 months.
Senator,
you regret it?
I don't remember whether it was distribution or possession in
it was
the law.
Both. Do you regret it?
In the law, there are different crimes that people commit.
Judge,
in
you gave him
this
3
area.
months. My question is, do you regret it or not?
Senator, what I regret is that in a hearing about my qualifications to be a justice on the Supreme Court, we've spent a lot of time focusing on this small subset.
This small subject, this small subset, Judge, with all due respect, and then maybe with no respect whatsoever for you at all, you have the audacity, you have the temerity, you could just sit there and basically say, oh, with all the things going on, you guys are focusing, okay, on a small subset of my cases because we want to know what your judicial philosophy is. Your judicial philosophy, from what we're seeing, even with these small subset of cases, is that you don't give a damn about the victims or their families, the mothers, the fathers that have been put through hell, the victims, underage boys and girls that have been put through hell. Where's the justice for them if you actually gave a perpetrator of these sex crimes 3 freaking months? It's a freaking, all you did was slap their wrist. You didn't even slap their wrist, you didn't even touch their wrist. Come on. Of course we're going to take a look at your subset of cases and figure out what your judicial philosophy is. We know what it is. You're lenient, you're lax, okay, on child sex offenders.
Of my sentences, and I've tried to explain.
You regret that
many
we're focusing on your cases? I don't understand.
No. I'm talking about the fact that you're talking about
child pornography
7
cases?
Very serious cases.
I'm glad we agree on that. Don't you think we should be focusing on
some of which involve conduct that I sentence people to 25, 30 years.
3 months in this case, Judge. Do you regret it? You haven't answered my question yet.
Senator,
do you regret this sentence?
Senator, I would have to look at the circumstances.
Answer
what
the
I'm telling
question.
you.
You know the circumstances. We discussed it for half an hour yesterday. There's a 55-page transcript, which I'm sure you've read. You lived it. As you've emphasized to this committee over and over, you've lived it, right? You said that you've been through all of this. You've looked at all of the images. You're the one who's had to endure all of it. You gave him a 3-month sentence. I just wonder if you regret it or if you stand by it. I mean, do you stand by that sentence?
Senator, in every case, I followed what Congress authorized me to do in looking to the best of my ability at all of the various factors that apply, that constrain judges, that give us discretion, but also tell us how to sentence. And I ruled in every case based on all of the relevant factors.
So you don't regret it?
No one case, Senator, can stand in for a judge.
I'm not asking you that. I'm asking you
record.
if you regret this sentence in this case. And it sounds like the answer is no. But I want to tell you I regret it. I regret that you gave him only 3 months. Let me
I
read to you
regret
what
it.
you said about
We regret
these
it.
kinds of cases. In fact, to this defendant, you said, make no mistake, Mr. Hawkins, the children you saw in those pictures were not willing participants in the conduct that you witnessed. They were being forced to commit unspeakable acts of sexual violence for the pleasure of the person who was filming and for the gratification of sick people everywhere, people who apparently have no shred of empathy for what this must be doing to the children who are being abused in this way. You go on. Some of the children you saw in those pictures will never have a normal adult relationship. Some of them will turn to drugs and prostitution and other vices to try to deal emotionally with the pain that results from the torture that they have experienced. And even those who manage to lead a somewhat normal adult life say they live in constant fear of being recognized. Some people are even unable to leave their houses because once those pictures are on the internet, they are there forever. And the victims can't do anything without worrying that every person that they meet has seen them in their most vulnerable state at the most horrible time in their lives. That's your words, pages 34 and 35 of the transcript. Powerful words, Judge. I just don't understand why after saying this and believing this, you could give this guy 3 months in prison when the probation office that we've heard so much about recommended 18 months. Even the probation office recommended 18 months. Do you have anything to add?
No, Senator.
Let me ask you about your policy of not giving enhancements when there are prepubescent children, like there were in the Hawkins case, who are 8, 9, 10 years old, when there are prepubescent children involved. I'm just struggling to understand this. You said it in Hawkins. You said that you weren't going to give him an enhancement. You weren't going to make his sentence any tougher, despite the fact that we had all of these terrible videos that you and I talked about at length yesterday. This is page 38 of the transcript, just so that we're all following along. You said, in your case, I don't feel that it is appropriate necessarily to increase the penalty on the basis of your use of a computer, we've talked about that, or the number of images or prepubescent victims as the guidelines require, because these circumstances exist in many cases, if not most, and they don't signal an especially heinous or egregious child pornography offense. You said the same thing in the Cooper case just last year. This was an individual, Cooper, who was 30 years old at the time of his sentencing. He pleaded guilty to distributing child pornography. He posted between 3 and 4 dozen images of child exploitation.
Look at her just sitting here, smug, lips are pursed. Look at her eyes. She just hates this. She just can't believe that they're questioning her. This well-educated, supposedly, woman out there, okay? So, and of color. How dare they continue this thing here? Look at the smugness that this person has for what she's done. I would just like to say that smugness, that is what is so typical of these leftist folks. They think they know everything. They think they know better. They think that, guess what, the victims don't matter. It's the people that are being jailed. They're the ones that we have to help because they're the ones that are the downtrodden. They're the ones that are being incarcerated for no reason. They're the ones that need to be rehabilitated. Screw the victims. You know what? Forget about the victims. We need to concentrate on helping, okay, the people that are being incarcerated that we're putting in jail. Why are we doing that to them? The smugness of these people knows absolutely no bounds whatsoever.
To Tumblr, where it could be accessed publicly, the government said, and I'll quote from the transcript in that case, page 37, when his devices were found, including the computer, within the computer and on an untitled folder were many, many, many videos. The nature of these videos went well beyond mere child pornography. The government says, I don't mean to make light of the content of any child pornography, but rather to say that the content of those videos is on the more egregious or extreme spectrum of the child pornography videos that are encountered in these cases. And yet, when you sentenced him, you said, I'm quoting now from the transcript in Cooper, I'm really reluctant to get into the nature of the porn. And then later, it's very difficult to assess how different Mr. Cooper's images are than those of other similarly situated child pornography defendants, such that I, without going into looking at them, and I'm not an expert, you say. So you say, while I understand the government's arguments, Mr. Miranda, the government's arguments in that regard, I don't find them persuasive from the standpoint of characterizing this as an especially egregious child pornography offense. Help me understand this, Judge. Why is it that what's your policy disagreement with the guidelines treating images, videos, pornographic images that have small children, infants, 7, 8, 9-year-olds? Why won't you give an enhancement for those? Help me understand that.
Thank you, Senator. I'll make two responses. First, that's not my policy disagreement. I don't know why you've characterized that in that way.
Well, wait a minute. You say right here in the cases. I mean, this is what I want to make sure that we're talking about the same thing here. This, in the Hawkins case, I don't feel that it's appropriate necessarily to increase the penalty on the basis of your use of a computer or the number of images or prepubescent victims. And you say the same thing in Cooper.
Senator, two observations. One, I am sentencing in every case. I have policy disagreements with certain aspects of the operation of the guidelines that I lay out in every case as Congress has required and as the Supreme Court permits in light of my experience, not only as a district judge, but also on the Sentencing Commission, which did a report about the operation of the guidelines. Second, you've read extensively from the government's argument in this case. You've not provided information from the probation office or the defense. And when
I don't have the
judge,
probation office report.
no, excuse me, Senator. The probation office provides a recommendation. There has been information gathered about what a recommendation was given in each one of these cases. I don't have that information here, but what I'm saying is that
In one of the cases, the probation office gave you a guideline of 18 months, and you gave 3. What the hell are you talking about?
in every case, the judge is not just hearing from the government. The judge is not just evaluating what the government says in these cases. In every criminal case, a judge has to take into account all sorts of factors, including arguments being made by the defendant, by the government, by the probation office.
What? The defendant is saying that everything is hunky-dory, that judge, yeah, I'm sorry, okay, I'm not going to do it again, I promise. You know what, I'll take some recidivism classes, I'll go to therapy, I'll take some medical treatments, I'll take drug-induced treatments, I'll do whatever it is, I promise I'll never do it again. And so he decided to go, oh, okay, all right. You were just a pedophile. You had thousands and thousands of pictures on your computers. You were distributing, you were filming, you were doing all kinds of things and whatever. And yeah, you seem like a nice guy other than that. So we'll reduce your sentence, okay, by years. And, you know, you're telling me you're going to be fine. You're never going to do this again. I believe you. Yeah, that's what?
I understand that in certain cases, the government may have made an argument, but there are other people in our criminal justice system who make arguments, and the court evaluates everything as Congress has directed, and no one case can stand in for my entire record of how I deal with criminal cases, or did when I was a district judge. I have law enforcement in my family. I am a mother who has daughters who took these cases home with me at night because they are so graphic in terms of the kinds of images that you are describing. They give you not only the actual videos, which you can ask to see, but they describe in the briefs, in detail, what these videos show. So I am...
No, then why did you give somebody 3 months instead of 18? You're just lying, absolute lying. You didn't give a damn. Don't tell me, okay, that you took these things home, graphic details, you read everything, that you're a mother, that you got daughters. if that was really, truly, absolutely how you felt here in your heart, then you would have said, you know what? I'm giving the maximum sentence in each and every single freaking case.
I'm fully aware of the seriousness of this offense and also my obligation to take into account all of the various aspects of the crime as Congress has required me to do, and I made a determination seriously in each case.
What I'm trying to understand is, why is it that you say multiple times that just because there are prepubescent victims in Cooper, in Hawkins, that does not signal that this is a heinous or egregious child pornography offense, and you're not going to apply any sentencing enhancements that the government's asking you for? The sentence gets to be less because you say, I'm not going to apply. The government asked for enhancements related to prepubescent children, related to the nature of these images. You say, I'm not going to apply it. But what you're telling me is, I guess, that you don't have a policy objection. I mean, why didn't you apply the enhancements as they were asked for?
Senator, I've answered this question many times from many senators who've asked me, so I'll stand on what I've already said.
So you have nothing to add about why these crimes, why these images, in your view, do not signal an especially heinous or egregious child pornography offense. That's Hawkins. You say in Cooper, I understand the government's argument, but I don't find them persuasive, the fact that there were prepubescent children, from the standpoint of characterizing this as an especially egregious child pornography offense. That's page 58. Let me ask you this. You said to Senator Graham earlier today that you were trying to do what?
Again, smug face, thinks she knows it all, doesn't give a damn about the victims whatsoever, only concerned about the perpetrators of the crime. She didn't want them to do the time. This is just absolutely pure smugness, folks, pure smugness.
It's rational, and you didn't, in sentencing in these cases, and you didn't think it was rational to sentence people who had thousands of images by using a computer to the sentencing guidelines, to the mandatory range. I'm sorry, it's not mandatory, to the no longer mandatory range, the discretionary range.
No, Senator, I said the guidelines system is designed to be rational.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Why isn't it rational to sentence people who have thousands of images on a computer to more time as opposed to somebody who has one or two pictures in the mail? In other words, the more images there are, why wouldn't you want to sentence that person to more time rather than less? Why isn't that rational?
Senator, I've answered this question and I'll...
That is rational. That is what a normal person would do, who wants to give justice to the victims and absolutely give maximum jail time to the perpetrators of these heinous, evil acts. That's what normal people do. These are not normal people. These are woke activists. These are people on the side of criminality. They want anything that they can bend, anything that they can sort of, give benefit of the doubt to, any way that they can apply their wokeness and liberalism and leftist ideas to help the downtrodden masses that commit these crimes and everything. That's what they're there for. For them, that's what's normal. That's what's normal.
stand on what I already answered.
So, but your answer is what? I mean, refresh my memory.
Senator, I've answered this question. I've explained how the guidelines work, and I'll stand on my answer.
But the guidelines are not mandatory. I wish they were, but they're not. The Supreme Court made that determination. I'm trying to understand why you think it's rational not to sentence criminals based on the number of images they have. You say that this is a policy disagreement that you have with the guidelines. This gets to the core of your judicial philosophy.
Bingo.
You served on the Sentencing Commission where you recommended changes to the guidelines based in part on this policy disagreement. So I think it's relevant and indeed vital we understand what the policy disagreement is. That's what I'm trying to get at here.
Senator, I previously explained what the policy disagreement is, and I will stand on my answer.
So you're not going to answer my question?
No, I've answered your question, and my answer
You
is
haven't
I've
answered my question. I'm sitting here asking you and you're declining to answer.
I've explained how the guidelines work. I've explained that the guidelines were developed at a time in which the commission of this crime was different than it is today. I've explained that Congress has not intervened to revise or direct the commission around how to deal with the changes in the commission of this crime. And so judges all over the country are grappling with how to apply this guideline under these circumstances.
Not the judges that care about the victims. Those judges are doing just fine with giving the enhancements and giving maximum jail time sentences to people that are committing acts to underage, that are being committed to underage children. They don't have a problem with it. The people that have a problem with it are wokesters and leftists like yourself, Judge.
And there's an extreme amount of disparity. And in each case, a judge has to look at all of the factors, not just the guidelines, not just what the government asks for, but the recommendations of the probation office, the arguments of the government and the defense, the nature and circumstances of the offense, the history and characteristics of the defendant, the need for the sentence imposed to promote the purposes of punishment, which include things like rehabilitation. Also, in every case, Congress has authorized judges to impose not only terms of imprisonment, which are a very important part of the consequences for these crimes, but a range of other preventative kinds of measures which courts impose in cases to prevent these defendants from repeating these egregious, this type of egregious conduct. And I talked to each defendant, as you have quoted, explaining to them the harms that their crimes caused. And I imposed not only a term of imprisonment, but also all of the other consequences of the offense, to include decades of supervision, restrictions on use of a computer, and the like.
Nobody supervises these guys that much these days. You know how easy it is to go buy a freaking computer and go to your home and plug it in, get a phone, an iPhone, a cell phone. What are you talking about? These are just stupid things that are just added on that have no consequential effect whatsoever freaking ever.
That's my answer. I've answered it many times. Do you have other questions for me?
Yeah, I do. I do, because I want to try to understand when you talk about the guidelines being outdated and outmoded. I understand that they were written, the initial guidelines were written at a time when computers were not common. Everybody didn't have one. They certainly didn't have phones in every pocket like we do now, smartphones. So I understand that. I also understand that the number of images, sexually exploitative images of children on these devices has exploded. And so I'm trying to get at what Senator Coons earlier characterized as a pretty fundamental policy question, which I think is the correct characterization here. I'm trying to understand your view on why it is that while the number of images available on these things has exploded, that sentencing shouldn't track that. You see what I'm saying? I mean, you've made the argument, if I understand you right, and I want you to correct me if I'm wrong, you've made the argument that, well, look, the guidelines were written at a time when this stuff was like, it was an individual picture, it was, magazines, whatever. Now, almost every offender, I think this is the argument, so you correct me. Almost every offender, because of the nature of this, they've got tens, hundreds, sometimes thousands. I mean, partly because of the nature of this. My question to you is, wouldn't we want to deter that? Isn't that a reason to impose tougher sentences? I mean,
Senator,
go ahead.
the Congress has every ability to do that. What's happening now is that you have a guideline that has gradations in it for the number of images that ends up being, when you look at the scale, something like the difference of 10 years. I don't know exactly what it is, but each two-level enhancement is like several years. And the gradations are like 0 to, and again, I don't have it in front of me, but it's like 0 to 50 pictures, 50 to 100 pictures, 100 to 150 pictures, set up at a time in which the mail was the primary mode of possession and distribution. And so if somebody had 50 pictures, they, according to Congress and the commission at the time, deserved an extra 10 years in prison. Now, with that scale, everybody's at the top.
Good.
Immediately, just
Good.
because of the nature of the internet. So you're not differentiating using that scale anymore.
You don't need to differentiate. They're at the top, boom, maximum sentence, simple, done, finished. Throw away the key.
Given the way this crime is committed. And so judges are having to decide, how are we going to deal with the penalties and do our jobs to impose sentences that are sufficient but not greater than necessary under these circumstances?
Yep. Thank you, Judge. I'll just say in closing that I appreciate that answer, and I understand that as a policy matter. I just think we disagree. I think that the more images are there, the more punishment there should be, and I want to see this deterred. And I just think we've pretty fundamentally disagreed. I've enjoyed our exchanges. Thank you for your candor.
There we go again. I'm just going to end this, folks. I mean, when you watch this thing and you go through it, okay, it just really starts to get under your skin and you're like going, what the hell is going on here? I mean, Josh just laid it out so brilliant at the very end. The Congress, when they wrote the laws previously, it was with snail mail. Things were going, through the mail, letters, magazines, whatever it was. And so the numbers were low. I mean, there were still numbers, but I mean, like you said, yeah, maybe like, you were sending in a magazine. Maybe a magazine had a few hundred pictures in there. Or pamphlet had, tens or whatever amount of pictures in there. And you sent it through the mail. And that's how you were distributing it or selling it through a magazine. Now, on a phone, you can have thousands of pictures. So she's saying, well, the gradations, everybody starts out at the top. Okay, well, so that's the way it is. If they start at the top, if the person was supposed to get 5 years for something minimum here at 50 pictures, and he's got 1,000 pictures and he's right there, you can't say, well, it's on a cell phone now, it's on a tablet. But that's what these judges are saying, that it's not fair that technology has sort of, gone so far ahead of what was happening before, which is, black ink and the printing press. So that's supposed to, in other words, we, again, give the benefit of the doubt because technology has just exploded, that now we've got to lessen the severity of the crime because technology has increased. Boo-hoo for the perpetrators. Boo, we have to cry tears for the pedophile. This is just absolute insane. It's just insane, folks. Anyways, we thank you for taking the time to watch. And if you haven't already done so, we'd love for you to subscribe to the channel. You're watching the Dr. Nasir Shaikh Show. I've been your guest host for this episode. My name is Dr. Shaikh. Subscribe to the video, please. Hit that notification bell, like, share, and follow us. And I'll leave you with my final thought, as I always do, and that is when you're right, and when you're left, you're wrong. We'll see you again next time, folks. Take care and stay safe.